I'm Jim, and welcome to the weekly message from Hummelstown United Church of Christ, right here in Hummelstown, Pennsylvania. We're the small church with a big heart, a place where everyone is truly welcome and where all can belong. Whether this is your first time joining us or you're a familiar part of our family, we're glad you're here. To learn more about our community, visit us online at hummelstownucc.org. Now, let's open our hearts and prepare for today's message.
This week, in talking about this text during our weekly Thursday Bible study, we pondered over how Paul starts his section by calling some people weak, a word that has many connotations of less than or undervalued in our modern culture. Strength, that is highly desired. Bodily strength, unshakable conviction in the strength of our values, the strength to endure suffering. These seem to be about what is valued, at least according to the world of the media we consume. But even more than that, he continues to talk around vegetarians and vegans as the weak who eat only vegetables, which seems ludicrous, maybe, as a member of a faith community that has an origin story of two naked vegetarians living in a garden. And certainly there seems to be a tongue-in-cheek way of talking about these personal preferences of eating and fasting as if they were trivial parts of life and of a faith story. Judaism has a lot to say about food laws. Islam as well. From an interfaith perspective, I can see the peace that Paul is offering out to this future interreligious world. But if I am to put myself in his context, I would be wondering on who he is passing judgment upon as he tells people not to pass judgment. For there seems to be enough blame to make a complete circle. And yet, he ends in the first version we heard, the New Revised Standard Version, updated edition, with, "So then, each one of us will be held accountable." And this accountability is the basis of peace and mutuality and striving for unity in God's realm. Accountability. We are accountable to ourselves and to our neighbors, and as Paul returns again and again, to God. To God be the glory and the honor and the purpose of your life all rolled into one. God's love, God's salvation, God's peace. This is what the business of the table is in this week. We're required by our faith to come ready and willing to engage around a table with honesty and vulnerability, which doesn't mean that we go with a harmful flow or always follow someone else's lead all the time. The honesty and vulnerability that are needed are to be willing to call oneself or one's own habits weak. Sometimes our strength is to show our weaknesses and to live into them. The message from our dramatic reading offers this line as, "So mind your own business. You've got your hands full just taking care of your own life before God." Which I gotta say, just doesn't have the ring of accountability for me. Because minding your own business isn't what I hear Paul encouraging here. Firstly, because when we hear you, we think the individual. But these letters were to communities, to groups of people, and intentionally a source of collaboration and needed interpretation. I don't know this word. I don't know what he's talking about here. So I don't know that minding my own business helps me to hold myself accountable, and instead seems to encourage a greater separation from my community when I live into just my truth. When does minding my own business pull my focus from caring for the needs of others? Is the needed balance to that minding of my own business? That's the moment that I am not remaining accountable to others. Is it my business that another has no food in their house? Is it my business that someone on the other side of the world is destroying rainforests? And because it is so much easier to say, no, I can't help, I can't get excited about that because it isn't my business, we insulate ourselves from being enriched by a natural state of support and response to community by saying it's not my problem. Our reading ended with a single line from Matthew. How many times, Lord, must we forgive? 7. There are 7 days of the week. There's 7 colors of the rainbow. There's 7 continents. But no, 77, which doesn't have quite as many easy reminders. Though there is a phrase from Islam that can be translated as, faith has 77 branches, the highest and best of which is to declare and believe that there is no God but Allah, without any equals or hires or anyone worthy of worship, and the lowest of which is to remove something harmful from a road. Shyness, too, is a branch of faith. But the mechanics of being able to forgive someone that many times make it uncomfortable to hear that 77 times is necessary. After that long, you might be more tempted to hold that grudge because you gave up believing in forgiveness 70 times ago. And sure, we have to forgive, but where is accountability in that 77? It's interesting, too, that our theme authors thought to end the dramatic reading only at that line of Matthew, to rejoin our retelling of Romans. Maybe it's because what follows that encouragement is less clear than forgive and forgive and forgive and then forgive again. The story Jesus tells to encourage Peter to better understand the radical mercy of God in a way in the world that we should be encouraged to emulate ends with a remarkable lack of forgiveness and mercy. A talent by means of interpretation is a large amount of money. Think 15 years' salary. A denarii is a day's wages. So 1,000 talents. 15 years of wages. That's what's being forgiven to begin with. And that is radical mercy. But I don't like how he comes back at the end with anger. I don't want to assign that kind of response to a good divine love. When Jesus tells this story, when Jesus speaks about judgment and punishment, though, it's not for the breaking of food laws or religious pontificating, as Paul is trivializing. He speaks of judgment for not loving someone enough to welcome their flaws and their failures to the table. That doesn't mean that exploitation is allowed, however. Forgiveness always doesn't mean harm didn't happen. Forgiveness and accountability are 2 central understandings that are and should be twisted up together. Forgiveness, until it feels impossible, is based on mutual respect and accountability. So in that parable, when that radically merciful owner then turns rather unmerciful, maybe the problem is accountability. And in our traditional understandings of the characters as Jesus' own delineation, that owner parallels to God, and that doesn't feel good, and it doesn't feel God. So is our faith system big enough to know and feel and find places that we want to call God accountable to? I'm not suggesting that we police God's side of forgiveness nor of each other's, but I am saying that for us humans to feel empowered by forgiveness, we see the dialogue needed, even when one partner isn't speaking. There must be a way of communicating. The hardest forgiveness is for those we are not in contact with. The call of forgiveness at the table of peace is not forgetting, and it's not one way. Peace is hardest because it should involve equal power and structural supports. And when we seek accountability and support, when we are ready to sit at the conference tables of peace and negotiate for our lives, there should be forgiveness there, and there should be openness and sharing, and an extra table whether you're ready to talk or not. And there should be the hope of a way forward in every participant's minds. So today we go out to seek ways of peace. Today we attempt to claim a little bit of peace for ourselves. And maybe sitting here in this sanctuary, sitting at home in front of a screen, is the bit of peace we can claim. And maybe we can use it as a means to seek ways to act with peace, to move and meditate upon the accountability we need from each other and from which we are asking from God. Peace is flowing and dynamic and wonderful and hard and worth the effort. So may we seek after it and hold it as gently and as often as we can. Amen. Peace be with you.